tends to stop his chest from moving forward a little bit more. He blocks a little bit more than Budka, but he still pushes back out and separates right there. You see that big separation behind the pole. But the thing I like about the Tarasov's vault is so simple. He swings so long straight up to the top of the pole, gets his feet up over, covers the top of the pole with his feet, and then makes his next move. And if you watch it full speed, it's just real simple. Comes off the ground, swings right up to the top of the pole. Okay, so a couple drills that we do here. In order to be able to do that, allow the hands to move back and be strong moving forward, we do some things to help make the shoulders more flexible and stronger with some elastic bands here. You see Brad here, he's just working on his top arm. You do the same with the bottom arm, single arm, but isolating one arm at a time there. And then after that, putting the two arms together, trying to allow the arms to go back far and move them forward. Really just working on flexibility and strength in the shoulders to be able to do that move after plant takeoff, which is a hard thing to do. This is a drill here. Now I like this because you can do a lot. You can do a lot of them. It's not really strenuous, but I also like the two quick steps into the takeoff, and then from there, she's just allowing her hands to go back and be long. We're not doing anything as far as separating and swinging. We're just working on the follow through here. I try to, on all these drills, and I don't even know if that mat is in the right spot, but all the things, we just have a few drills that we do, gymnastic type drills that we set up here in our little storage area, but I try to use those crash mats to, in case somebody were to lose their grip. Just another little drill here. This is a real bendy old crossbar that we use. And she, once again, working on letting the arms stretch back and then trying to move the body back. These are, those series of things are all working on the same thing. My PowerPoint here is a little out of order here. I would say then, this also kind of goes along, this drill here goes along with that. And this drill here is not working on the plant and takeoff because you are coming in very flat, but it basically just working on a real good extended position. On this one, it's really important that they keep that foot really close to the ground. The danger on this one is the foot slips out and you land on your back. You can also spot it, just stand alongside and make sure that if they did lose their footing, that you were there to catch them. But this isn't something where you're working on plant and takeoff, and you wouldn't want to do a lot of this. Just working on the flexibility and the accentuating that follow-through position. I guess this drill here would more incorporate plant and takeoff. Also, a push plant, and a lot of you guys have done this before. But again, on a push plant, it's kind of like the sliding box. What their athlete's going to want to do is going to want to keep their lower body from swinging out by blocking out on the bottom arm. So it's important that that left arm is moving back up over the top of the hand with the bottom, or the bottom arm is moving with the top arm back over the head. Just a push plant. And when I spot this, and I don't do this with the guys very much. The girls, it's easy. The guys sometimes will spot each other on something like this, but I like to spot it right kind of right underneath the armpits so that you're not pushing their lower body out. And also, if you're kind of on the sides, it allows you to control them from going from side to side. So the spot is right up underneath the armpits here.
What size pole is that in relation to her
light,
to her competition
really light,
pole?
probably too light. It's bending like crazy.
Okay, that's what I was looking at.
What's that?
I said I spotted a turning coming on that one.
Oh, do you? No, I've been doing it for years and it haven't had any problems at all. But that pole's probably bending a little too much. Yeah, there might be a couple things that you'd want to build up to doing and be really careful in some of the things that I spot. Okay, so now here are some of the drills that we do to work on what happens after you've gotten into that big C position. Basic high bar swing. What she's trying to do is tap her chest forward, get that elastic stretch, and then immediately push the hands back forward at the same time she's swinging the trail leg back. She's kind of throwing her head back. I would want her to see her. On this drill, I just want to get to the point where you see your feet above you, like what would be over the top of the pole in that completed swing position. I'm not a big fan of the traditional Bukka drill where you go from that position right there to dropping your shoulders, because I believe that if you do it a lot, it teaches you to drop your shoulders without turning at the same time. And as I'm about to go into, I believe that when you drop your shoulders, you want to make sure that you're turning at the same time. So for that, let's see. Okay, so here we go, taking it to the next level. Carly's now added a little approach into that, jumping off of a small springboard. Again, I got the mat underneath there. But what I've got is, I've got that same high bar, but now I've got a pole. There's a pole that's on top of the high bar, and it's held up on a shelf in the back there. So she's grabbing the high bar with her right hand, and her left hand is grabbing the pole. And that puts her hands in a little bit more of a similar position to what it would be at when you actually fall. But so again, she jumps, arms up high over her head, jumps, stretches, and swings out of that right away. And basically just getting to that position where she's looking at her feet right there at the top. And she's doing a really good job with that. So these last couple drills that you see, we're working on not delaying that swing and the separation with the hands. As soon as we stretch, we're coming right out of that and swinging. Okay. I gotta reorganize my PowerPoint here. This drill right here, I said I use the foam for a lot of things, but here I bring that foam in behind, and the goal is to not kick the foot up. Her leg is kind of bending, but that kind of attacking trying to get this position here with chest forward from the other side, from the bottom half. If your foot's back, then your chest has to be forward, and it works pretty well for some. It's just not something I do every day, but bringing that foam in back behind and trying to get the trail leg to follow through back behind. While we're on that line of thinking here, I'll show you this drill. It's the opposite. I've put the foam out over the top of the box, and he's doing the opposite. He's trying to kick through and stay long. Maybe something good for somebody who had a problem tucking up instead of staying long and swinging through. And when you stay long through the bottom of the vault like that, the longer you are, the more pressure you keep on the pole, as well as keeping pressure with your arms by staying long and long through the trail leg. That's keeping more pressure on the pole and allowing it to stay bent while you move in, and allows you to get behind it and stay and get ahead of it. So those are two ways that we keep the pressure, keep the pole, the energy in the pole. And one is with the arms, the other is by staying long. And this drill here where he's kicking the foam is just for somebody who would have a problem not keeping the trail legs straight as they go through. Okay, I have a series of horizontal vaulting that we do where we work on the different stages again. This one is just getting to that position, swinging to that position, keeping pressure on the pole and getting to this position. Now, you notice he's going deep in the pit. This is something like with what Jim was talking about, that you would have to really make sure that you're not going too deep. I have another mat behind my mat. Also, you can see it where we practice, the walls are all padded, and I actually had when they put the box in there, it left a space about 2 to 3 feet around the wall and back wall side of the pit, and I had them build me some custom. You see the wall, so the mat basically extends all the way to the wall. So it's just nice to have a little extra there, and I figured that space it'd be easy to fill that space in. So it makes our pit even a little bit bigger. But with this drill, you really have to watch how high they're holding and make sure that they are not going off the back of the pit. And the girls can do it pretty easily on small training poles. The guys will need to really scale back and come from a really short approach with a lot lower grip than they're capable of, so that they don't get too deep. So that's stage one of the horizontal vaulting. That's a drill practice. The guys can't go much more than 3 steps, maybe 2, in order to, even with my extra pad in the back, that they will go too far. Girls can get on a little training pole and do that and shoot off the top of the pole and not have to worry about going too deep usually. It's not a daily drill. A lot of these drills, like I said, aren't something that we do daily. It's something that we'll do in a certain point of a phase, or some of the little gimmicky things. I'm just trying to find ways to get somebody to get into a position that I'm trying to get them into. So it's not necessarily something that everyone does even at all. Okay, so this is I said I was going to show you a drill for the vault, Spencer. I was going to show you a drill that I use for people that have a problem not getting all the way back. And again, I call it the baton drill because that's what was laying around when I thought of doing this. I put a baton on the top of the pole for her and taped it on, and now she is not going to drop her shoulders until she hears her foot make that ting noise of hitting the baton. So there's a real definite point that you know you've gotten to the top of the pole when you hear that ting of the toe hitting that baton. And so not something I would do with everybody every day or anybody. Or some people will never do this, but somebody who was in a hurry to drop their shoulders and turn before they actually got all the way back, which is another cause of having a person flag off the pole. We talked about not getting behind the pole and how that leads to flagging off once the pole straightens. Well, another cause of that would be not getting all the way back in your swing before you drop your shoulders. Because basically, vertical on the pole, getting all the way back to vertical on the pole, when the pole is still bent, is actually not vertical, it's past vertical. And so, in order to be straight up and down in line with the pole and vertical, when the pole straightens, you have to be well past vertical in order to get to that position when the pole straightens. So that's why it's important that you see Bubka's trail leg foot, his left foot, and his feet kind of come together at one point right here, but the feet get all the way up over the top of the pole before he releases the pressure completely with his left arm. You see his left arm really let go of the pressure of the pole, and he drops his shoulders and tries to line up. That's the next step, but you wouldn't want to do that until you get all the way on top of the pole with those feet. If you do it early, if your feet are only here and you decide to drop your shoulders and start your turn, that's where you're going to end up when the pole straightens. So that baton drill is just kind of something that works pretty well sometimes for the kids that don't go all the way to that position. Okay. Just a couple more drills here. Here's the rings, again with the mat underneath. Now I like the rings because you can, unlike a high bar, you can swing and turn. And that's, again, I think that's really important that when you go to drop your shoulders and turn, or go to drop your shoulders and head back, you turn at the same time. And you can see that Kate is doing just that. Using her hands and her trail leg together, getting to this point where she's looking at her feet in this position, and then it's time to drop your shoulders and turn. And on the rings, if you try to stay hanging from the rings, you won't be actually past vertical. So that's why when she drops her shoulders and turns, it's beyond vertical. If it were a pole, the whole time she was making that drop and turn move, the pole would be straightening. So by the time she got to vertical, she'd be in line with the pole. But on the rings, if they try to stay still hanging from the rings and come back down and do it again, they won't actually be all the way to that position they should be when they drop their shoulders and turn. So she has to basically reload, drop off the rings, and go again. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, just sum it up here. We do a lot of these straight pole swings. I think it's important. We do the straight pole swings going beyond vertical, like you see Brad, around the right side of the pole for a right-hander, swinging all the way back into that position. So that takes care of the drills. And real quick, I really talked a lot about what happens after you get to the top of the pole already. So we're trying to make sure that we complete that swing phase all the way to the top before we drop our shoulders and turn. But once we get to that position, without any delay, we're going to let the left arm release all of its pressure, drop our shoulders and turn at the same time. And I used this clip here. I think Lobinger does an awesome job of turning in conjunction with his shoulder drop. Probably, you see, he does some things that look kind of funky there, but he separates real well right here, gets behind the pole, and makes up for a lot of things that weren't necessarily ideal there, but he waits till he gets all the way, covers the top of the pole with his feet. But the thing I like about Lobinger's vault is he drops his shoulders and turns at the same time really well. He's almost around the pole before he even starts to push off. And I think that he's doing a really good job there with that. Incorporating, dropping the head and shoulders and turning at the same time, which allows you to, he goes vertical forever. Really good. So, I see a lot of these video clips on Staub Hochsprung and stuff, and Bubka, obviously, that some of his vaults are pretty good all the way around, but there's certain things that some people do well that you want to use to make your point. I like to show people this vault here for the fact that when he drops those shoulders, he turns at the same time really well and gets behind the pole, comes off the top. Okay, so those are the things we're looking for there. This will be the last thing I promise, Greg. Couple things that we do, couple drills we do to work on that. We'll do some pulley. This, I call this first half pulley. We're not going through the pulling and pushing off the pulley yet. We're just working on, first of all, closing off and then dropping our head and shoulders and turning at the same time. And on the pulley, I use a spot all the time so that the person doesn't swing around. And also, too, I find that when you do these pulley drills, if you were to just try to do it by yourself, you couldn't do it with good technique. You'd be all over the place. And so there's a lot of assistance that goes on with the pulley. And, you know, obviously it develops some strengths, but it also gives them some idea of where the positions that they want to hit. And then we would move on to a full pulley, you know, going to that position here and then continuing to pull and push off the top of the pole. I also, too, on the pulley, you see that she has only one of her feet is connected in there, her right foot, and you got to really make sure that you go under the straps if you bought the pulley with the leg straps there. You got to go back under the clip to make sure their foot doesn't fall out. But I like to go just one foot in there so that they learn to keep their feet together when they're making this move. Another thing I'm looking for is that she's dorsiflexing her feet. She's driving her heels, not pointing her toes towards the crossbar, but driving her heels, which I believe will keep your feet locked, your legs locked back with the pole, and will also kind of negate any kind of flagging off that you see of the legs. That when they drive their heels back, it tends to keep them locked in and going vertical. So that's that, almost done. And I'll just finish up here with the horizontal vault, step 2 and 3. You can see now Seth, he's doing that, he's starting his turn and he goes to his side. And then finally, and this is where I talked about, you've got to watch the guys how far they're going. See now with Seth, he's going to follow through and push off, but now I've really lowered his grip and shortened his approach so that he could still land safely in the pit. But now that's just a full continuation of pulling and pushing off and flying away from the pole and landing on your stomach. And it's a lot easier to do this maneuver horizontally than it is vertical. So it's a good place to learn how to finish that vault and fly off the top of the pole. And then you can gradually bring that more and more towards vertical until they're doing it the way you want to see it over a crossbar. Okay, sorry, I went over. Is there time for questions? Or? Yes?
Any questions for Pat? Yeah.
What do you ask the golfers to keep their eyes through the jump?
At the plant? Well, okay, like Ralph talked about yesterday, as they're coming into the plant and takeoff, you see the box. You have to see the box, but you don't want to be looking down at the box, physically looking down at the box. You see it in your peripheral vision. So, seeing the box, but as soon as you've made that turn and you know your tip's dropping down towards the box, then I want them to redirect their eyes up, kind of towards their bottom hand, somewhere, above, straight ahead, but not looking back or in a position where they get here, but looking here. So from there, their eyes are up. And I think it really helps in being active with this move after you leave the ground, keeping your eyes up. The people who bury their head tend to, that's kind of I'm going to hold this position on the bottom a long time kind of thing. So keeping your head up is good at being able to initiate right away. From there, their head is just in line with their body, and they are going to wait until they see their feet on top of the pole. A lot of athletes want to drop their head back to try to get upside down. And again, that's another thing that causes the flagging. So I want them to see their feet get to the top of the pole, and then I want their head to just drop back in line with their body. Not just head, but head and shoulders together, drop back and turn. So I guess you're looking up at takeoff, your eyes are generally up, and then you're looking for your feet on top of the pole. And that will make sure that you're not throwing your head back, which was my style.
If you had your perfect year, and you were, these horizontal drills that you were working on, and you were going to kind of block it into a specific phase, but that was going to be your emphasis. When would that be, and how long would the phase be?
You know what, the horizontal drills are kind of like the other drills for me. If I have a person who is having a really hard time getting the idea of what to do after you leave the ground, we'll take it horizontal and do it that way. And it might be with some athletes that we just do some train pull stuff before we actually go back to vault on a daily basis. They'll do maybe 5 to 10 jumps from a short approach, going through the right motions, and then gradually they get to the point where they're understanding the positions they're trying to get in enough, and it's easier to do it horizontal, that you start to see it incorporated into the regular vault. So I don't know if we actually do it. It kind of goes along with a lot of my other drills where I'll use it with certain individuals to try to get them to feel the right positions and accomplish some of the things they're trying to do.
Put the previous slide back up for just a little bit.
Yeah. This guy?
Yep, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
One more over there.
When dropping your shoulders and turning, is with your right arm, your top arm, is there any bicep pulling, or is it more of a lean with your shoulders? Where is that transition?
You want to be very rigid with that arm. You want to be very rigid with that arm and keep it really close to your body until you get all the way extended, and then it finally pulls and it bends it. You see Tim here in this vault. This is awesome. He gets, not only is he's behind the pole really well, but it seems like he's getting a really good pull with that right arm when he drops his shoulder, and it just gets launched. I mean, it's like he's standing on top of the crossbar. There's so much energy, and it looks to me like you'll have to ask Jim, but he really gets a good pull with that right hand, right there. And it just goes right into that arm bending and pulling and pushing off the top of the pole. It looks to me like he's adding a lot more energy at the top of that vault than what he would just simply get back from the pole.
Can you throw that in slow-mo,
Yeah.
please?
So that... Are there yet? It doesn't show me my picture on the
There you go.
computer screen. So he got his step back out to where he wanted it, and he's taking off and getting on the bigger poles, which is also adding to that energy. But you see here, he gets way behind the pole, but here, so he gets his feet over the top of the pole, like I said, but we do a lot of Olympic lifting, but we'll do a hang, clean, and jerk without a pause here in the middle, so it's more here, like just to keep the movement going. Whoops. So, as opposed to a regular hang, clean, and jerk where you would gather and then jerk, we'll do something where there's no pause in the middle. So I think that's good. We do a lot of Romanian deadlifts with really heavy weight, where we're just working on that strength from here. Like I said, I mean, that's kind of working on the same strength as you get from doing butkas, but I'm separating that from so they're not thinking of pole vaulting technique, because I really don't like to do any shoulder dropping without turning, because I want him to turn at the same time and drop his shoulders.
Why don't we let Jim comment what his clue or what Tim's thought pattern is right there.
Awesome.
I think Pat's exactly right. I think that there is, we say, where's it coming from? Where's the extension coming from off the top of the pole? Is it coming from the swing, or is it coming from the finish? And I think it's both. That sets him up. But his cue for that, which is the last couple of years, is even though he lets that left arm collapse and get close to his body so he can get close to the pole, he's still pulling as hard as he can with both hands. With both hands until his left hand has to come off the pole. So, and then with his right hand all the way through his chin. So not just here, but both upside down clean, like you explained.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's pulling on a rope. He's pulling really hard right there, and turning at the same time. But you really appreciate it when you run it fast. but that energy that he gets off the top of the pole, there's something that he's adding to the second half of the vault that's not just from the pole unbending right there. So yeah, just that right arm needs to stay really close. It needs to stay long to be able to transfer the energy from the pole to your body. You don't want to pull too early. It's got to be after you've gotten straight in a straight line. Then it follows through and pulls and push. Also, too, you want to keep that right hand really close to your body. Try not to get out of the way from the body. And just like I said, it's good to look at vaults from different. This is Bubka from the back angle here. You can see how he keeps that right hand really close to the body. It's not getting out of the way here. It's staying close in the close line.
Did Bubka have good run mechanics? Evidently.
Yeah, it was awesome. That's why I said Bubka. I mean, you could pretty much pick a Bubka vault, and there's not a lot of weaknesses. It's a good model all the way around. But this is a good angle here to see what he's doing as far as keeping the right hand. You see there that the right arm is not going to start bending until he has dropped his shoulders. Now he pulls. There's a bending at the bicep, and then pull and push. And you see how close he's able to keep the hands to the body as he comes through. It doesn't get out of the way out in here, but it stays really close. So there's a little bit of energy to add to the vault at the end there with the dropping the shoulders and pulling, and then pushing off the top of the pole, which can help you rotate on top of the crossbar and keep moving.
Thank you, Pat. As a mistake, and Pat really started to talk about it. A lot of times we think a kid is under, and it's really a result of hand action as opposed to their step being off. And I think a great clue that I've heard that I've shared with Vitaly Petrov a couple times is quick hands, quick feet. Quick hands, quick feet. It's an excellent coaching cue. Pat was showing a lot of scenes early of Dmitry Markov, who I had the pleasure of coaching for a year in 2004. And somebody was asking about left hand. Are you applying pressure? What's your thought process, etc.? His thought process was the left hand was a stabilizing method. It wasn't really where he was thinking at all. He was totally a top arm thinker. But the left arm stabilized him behind the pole, and in relationship to the pole, that was his thought. So maybe that's a good word clue. There are a lot of bottom arm thinkers in this country because we're thinking about bending the pole instead of jumping over the top of it. Bottom arm thinkers are real easy to see. You can just see the focus. Everything they're doing is locked through that bottom arm. If you've got a bottom arm thinker, just look at all the clues these guys have given you this morning to try and change them, because it's a dangerous. There was one girl in this country who jumped, oh goodness, almost 13 feet as an 8th grader, and she jumped 13.3 8 years later as a senior in college. The most classic bottom arm thinker you could ever imagine. She just could never break away from it, and it was sad because she had a lot of talent. One final thought that these guys have hit on. This last March, I was in Germany for the European Pole Vault Summit and got to sit on a panel with Andrei Krzyzewski and Vitaly Petrov, arguably two of the greatest coaches in pole vault history. I was like a little kid in a candy store sitting next to these two guys. And the one message they kept repeating that I really like, and I think these guys have touched on today, you can't teach your kids to be robotic. The vault has to flow. It has to be a continuous movement. So even though we have all these drills and these steps, you can't let those drills let your kids become robotic. They have to flow freely. Let's take about a 10-15 minute break and because the interesting